Okay folks, I just wanted to talk through some of the instrument options in SMSGGDJ. Let's have a closer look. So we've got our 4 channels, T1, T2, T3 and noise, and some of these instruments are only going to play on some of these channels. So what I'm going to do is just place a new chain onto channel 3 and a phrase, and let's add some notes in. And you can hear as I'm adding the notes in, it's automatically auditioning them. Let's have a listen. Okay, so automatically these notes have been assigned to instrument 0. You can automatically, if you place a note and want to use a new instrument, you can double tap 1 to create a new instrument as well. Let's have a look at the default settings. So the type is a tone instrument. If we were on the noise channel, this would default to a noise instrument. You can see the volume is set to full at F. We've got attack, hold and decay to set the envelope. Now the attack time and decay time, these are both rates of change, and so the higher the attack, the slower it takes to get to the volume set by the instrument. 0 means instantaneous. Hold time is, in terms of ticks, it's double that amount of ticks. So hold time of 1 means 2 ticks. So it's still a pretty short time. And then decay is also just a rate of change. So that's the default kind of envelope. Let's just have a listen to a few different values here. And of course at 0, nothing's going to play. And from this screen, we can always hold down 2 and tap 1, and that will automatically preview what this particular phrase is going to sound like with these instrument settings. We can transpose from this screen as well, so we can just try out and see what it sounds like an octave down or an octave up. And just holding down the 1 button plus up or down will change it by an octave. And then we've got some modulations. So we can sweep. So the sweep parameter is just, again, another rate of change parameter. Above 0, 0, these are going to sweep downwards, and then below 0, 0, these are going to sweep upwards. Let's have a listen to some examples. Like that. So you can create some sound effects, you can create some drum sounds, that sort of thing. Next up we've got vibrato, and if we hold down button 1 and tap up, that's going to change the rate of the vibrato, and if you tap left and right, that's going to change the depth of the vibrato. So the first digit of the 2 is the rate and the second digit is the depth. Let's have a listen. So those are the kind of sounds that we can get from the vibrato. Next we've got a tremolo, which is basically amp modulation. And so again, the first digit is going to be the rate of that modulation, and the second digit is going to be the depth of that modulation. And there we go. Those are our basic sounds that we can get from the tone type instrument. Below that, we've got tables, which we'll go into in another video. Let's try out some of the specialized instruments that are only available on T3. So these are the sample instrument, SMP, and the wave instrument, so the waveform type. So the sample instrument, the way it works is that there's 32 samples, and they wrap around from the lowest note onwards. So the best way to approach it is if you want the very first sample in this bank of 32 samples, we start off with the very lowest note, so which is, in my case, I've patched this to be a kick drum, and I've got sort of 4 kick drums in a row, 4 snare drums in a row, 4 hi-hats, 4 toms, and then some additional samples, making up a bank of 32. So a couple of things that we can do is, if we don't want a sample to ring out as long, we can use a K command. To kill that note early. And that's just in terms of ticks. We can transpose it. Now, transposition is just shifting our sample selection over by 1. So if I've got 4 kicks in a row and 4 snares in a row, and at the moment I'm playing the first kick and the first snare out of each set of 4, what I can do here is I can just transpose and hear the next in that set of 4. Let's have a listen. So I thought that would be a handy way of just trying out different samples easily. And then we've got a rate parameter. And so we can have our normal rate. We can have a rate that's double the speed. So it'll be an octave up and half as long, half the speed. So the opposite of that. And I thought for fun, we've also got a 4 times the original rate. Let's have a listen to all 4 of these. And it's just a way of getting a little bit more out of our samples because it is quite limited. Okay, let's get rid of some of these. And instead, let's switch over to the waveform type. So this uses the same method as we have for sample playback, but instead of playing back samples, we're calculating a waveform that we're modulating amplitude with. So the volume here, it's not really a volume function, but we can set the volume to 0 to mute this channel if we want to. And then we've got a hold function, which is not highlighted at the moment. We've got a hold function, but really the way to manipulate the length of notes if you don't want it to play as long is to use the K command again. So let's have a listen to the waveform. And so we've got a total of 8 different waveform selections. Let's have a listen to each of these. And we can actually go and edit these waveforms as they're playing. So if you look at the instrument screen on the little map, if we go up from that, so hold down button 2 and go up, here we can edit these waveforms. And they'll just, I've got it set to waveform 0 at the moment. I'm editing waveform 0. Holding button 2 and going left and right, we'll select a different waveform to edit. The 7th waveform is sort of the noisy one. But we should be able to hear these changes. There we go. And while it's playing, we can use a B command to select a different bank of waveform. And again, we can transpose. So it's the waveform channel. Let's go back to our song screen. And what we'll do is insert a new chain onto our noise channel, a new phrase. And then let's have a listen to the noise channel. So with the noise channel, again, we've got volume, we've got attack, hold, decay. And note that because the decay and the attack are rates of change, if our volume is lower, that's going to give us a faster seeming decay. It's going to complete in a quicker amount of time, which can be useful for kind of our noise channel. So what we can do here is we can transpose, we can sweep, we can add vibrato, but all of these aren't really going to have much of an effect. It depends on what our noise mode and our rate is set to. So our mode is basically, do we want to have a white noise or do we want to have a periodic noise? That's the periodic noise. That's the white noise. And then as a basic setting, if we don't want to consume any resources from other channels, we either have a rate setting of basically a clock division of 512, 1K or 2K. Let's see what the white noise equivalent sounds like. Now you notice we do have a pitched one here as well. Now that pitch, the noise channel does not have its own pitch oscillator or pitch counter that you can derive frequency from. Instead, what it does is it uses the resources of channel 3 to uses the oscillator from channel 3 to drive the noise. So if we use pitch mode here on our noise channel, that means we cannot use pitched sounds on channel 3. Or if we did, that would be the same pitch as what we're setting here. Let's just do a quick little noise sweep here, get you an idea. So the useful thing about this is that we can have noise sweeps like that, but you'll notice that if I've got it in periodic mode, it's actually a couple of octaves lower than channel 3's frequency was. So this allows us to create some bass sounds, some lower frequency sounds that we normally can't achieve with the other tone channels. So yeah, that's the basics of the instrument types that we have in SMSGDJ.